Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and today I'm going to be talking about Letters, a written adventure. A description for this game is Letters is a fun word puzzle game about friendship, growing up, and finding your place in life. Follow Sarah, a shy girl from Switzerland, by moving through her pen pal letters and chat messages. Use the power of words to solve riddles, interact with her friends, and decide who she will grow up to be. And this is developed by 5am Games, and this is actually their first game. So, all right. That's a little bit of what our game is before we kind of dive deep into kind of recap and my thoughts deeper. I did want to do a quick non-spoiler section here. So, first, as it mentions, it's a word puzzle. The way this basically works is you'll have like a journal that will be up with words, and some of them will be highlighted, and then there will also be hidden words that if you went up to them and like kicked them, it would change the word there. So, for instance, if there was, the sun was bright, and you went to bright and you kicked it, it might change it to right and like kick the B off. There are word puzzles like that, or you go up to flower and you kick it, and then it changes it to flow and knocks the ER off. That kind of deal. But what will happen is you'll solve these kind of word puzzles, and then you can use the word to interact in another area. So that might be like you're in an instant message conversation with someone, and you kick the letter and send it over. Sometimes you could pull the full letter over and send it, but there are only kind of certain ones you can use. And if you use the wrong word, the character you're interacting with might even respond like, "What do you mean by that?" So that's, I guess, sort of how it works. There's also like drawings in the journal, so if you use a certain word, it could affect the journal and allow you to kind of puzzle your way through the journal. Because something else that will happen is there's like lines written, and you essentially like platform down the lines of the journal to do things. So that's sort of how the word puzzle mechanic part works. So both word game and puzzle game, both I would say pretty light. It's not hard like neither are hard where it's like a hard puzzle mechanic where it's difficult, or a hard word mechanic like intense word games can be, where it's not too hard on either of those. So on one side, I would say half of your game is this word puzzle thing. The other half of your game is almost this Emily is Away type of thing. So you've got, as I mentioned, like IM conversations going. I think it's mostly IM conversations. Occasionally there's actual physical letters too, so you see that as well. But and it comes with the emotions and relationship building and all of that stuff that Emily is Away would have. So I would say that's best how I would describe it. Word puzzles meets Emily is Away. If either of those things sound like something you like, I think this would be a game for you. And also something, I guess, as another thing about the game is I thought overall it was a pretty positive game. Not that there aren't deep issues that come up along the way, but it didn't feel like a downer so much, which was nice. I know a lot of times when I play narrative games, they can kind of bend on being a bit more brutal or sad kind of thing. And, this still had moments that way, but overall I felt like it was largely a pretty positive experience, which was nice. I think a lot of the positive games I've played have been things that would be like more for children, like Animal Crossing or something like that, where it's like that's its sole aim. This one still delved in like the real world, but it had, tough spots along the way occasionally. So overall, I would say pretty positive game. Also, this game does involve some choices as it goes. So for instance, there'll be moments where you'll write and you'll like respond to someone in the question. It's like, "Oh, did you want to do this or that?" And you'd respond to it. So I think that there's probably at least some variety of what the game's outcomes could be. So I think there's some of that as well. Okay, cool. I think that about summarizes some non-spoiler thoughts I have here. So finally, now we'll move into the recap at large, kind of go through the game, my experience with it, all of that. So the game begins, and it's December 1997. Your character, Sarah, is age 10. And you write a letter to Katya, who is your pen pal from Russia. And this, of course, is going to be a key relationship through this game, a key friendship. And in this, you kind of write telling about yourself. I think that you'd had some of a pen pal relationship before this. I don't think this was your first letter, but I think it was early in getting to know each other. One decision you get to make in this chapter is you've got two friends. One who's a girl named Leah, who invites you over to play video games, or you can go to art camp with your friend Nick. I chose to go play video games with Leah. I don't know, I like video games more than art, so that was my move. Also in this, the other kind of big decision that happens here is your parents get a divorce. And so you can either choose to stay in your home where you live now with your dad, or you can move out with your mom and go live somewhere else. And I chose to stay home with dad. I thought that, I don't know, Sarah keeping more normalcy in her life would probably be more what she would want. Along the way, you also... no, I think that's it. I think it sets the stage there. I think you also get introduced to your sister, and you have sort of a not great relationship. I think it's one of those things where it's like, she's the older sister, so she's like, you're my younger sister, I don't want to deal with you, kind of thing. So that's sort of sets the stage for the game here. Something I wish I would have asked as a question on Twitter, so I'm bummed out that I didn't. But I'll just ask it now, and you can write in if you want. But I was curious of people who have pen pals. Did you ever have one growing up? Are you still in contact? Any of those things. I think that that's something that's pretty interesting. And I don't know. This game really runs with it, and I thought was fun. Personally, I never had a ongoing pen pal. I think my senior year of high school, we had pen pal relationships with a school from another state. Maybe we wrote to freshmen even of kind of like, hey, I'm at the end of high school and here's some things I learned. Here's what you should think about. I think it was something like that, but I'm pretty sure that being organized by our English teacher, we might have only wrote once or twice back and forth. Like it wasn't like they were my person and we were friends forever kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. That's my mild experience. I liked it. I remember thinking that was cool back in high school. But anyway, I was curious for you, though. Have you ever had a pen pal relationship? What was that like? Did you keep it up? Is it still presently going? Anything like that. I think that would be really interesting. And I think someone who would have a pen pal relationship would probably like this game. I think some of that it brings. But anyway, cool. That's our intro and my little sidebar. So the next chapter is March 2004, and Sarah is now 16. And in this chapter, Sarah uses what are the equivalents of like AIM, instant messaging, and also MySpace, kind of equivalent. And you see those, you get to see a little bit of what she's into. You end up talking with Leah, who mentions that you two are the weird kids, that she's annoying and that you're really shy. And you're just kind of chatting. It seems like, you two are close, but then maybe don't have friends at your school otherwise. Really, one thing you do in this is she sends you like a something that would be like a Bitmoji type thing, except it's make your emo crush. And so you can, choose what their hair looks like and the clothes they're wearing and, all that stuff. So you make an emo crush. That's fun. After you talk with Leah, I am Katya, who encourages you to apply for a video game internship and a robotics class. So Katya is like, hey, I know that you really love video games and are really passionate about that. I don't know if you know this, but this video game studio that you love is actually has an internship. You should apply for it. And you're like, I don't know if I want to apply for it. I'm kind of nervous. And she's like, but you made this one cool game on your own. Like, why not try? You'll never know if you don't do it. And you're kind of like, I'm shy. I don't know if I want to. But Katya again encourages you. You get a similar kind of talk with the robotics class. Same thing. Katya notices that there's something available that you could do. And you're like, I don't know. I suck and I'm dumb. And she's like, no, you're not. I know you and you could do this. And I believe in you. Ultimately, she like asks you like, well, what if somehow you got to choose either one? Which would you do? And I was like, oh, I like video games more. I would choose that. And she's like, okay. And this is something cool. I think seeing this relationship from this angle already is, it seems like we learn that Sarah, I think, kind of lacks some self-confidence, is uncertain of herself. But then Katya's kind of her stable friend who can affirm her from afar and kind of point her value out. I think in this chapter also you get some, I think Sarah's sister is a little bit mean to her, and Sarah's like, yeah, like my sister says, I'm just dumb, something like that. And Katya's like, I think your sister is the dumb one. I know you, and you're pretty great. So you get kind of that going on. So then you fast forward a little more to May 2004, so not much further. You write a letter to Katya, so this time you're not IMing, but you're just sending a physical mail. And in your letter, you talk about how you started hanging out with this cool girl named Alex, who is kind of your emo crush dream. I don't know if she looks exactly like the emo crush that I created, but she looked a lot like her. And you see Alex is like, Alex is like into bass, and she's in a band, and she's really, I think, a lot of things that Sarah's not. You end up going over to her house. Things move forward quite a bit, and I think for Sarah, it's pretty like, whoa, I can't believe this is all happening. So it's cool to see things move. We move forward again just a little bit to June 2004. You end up IMing Alex, and you end up making plans for her to come over. And they're sort of a little like, ooh, no one's going to be here. This is exciting. So you get some of that kind of conversation. Also in this, your dad is in the hospital, but he's recovering. That he had to get his stomach pumped, and I think that Sarah is kind of concerned, but is kind of like, well, I mean, at least he's at the hospital, but like, I don't know, Dad will get better. He said that he's doing better than he was, kind of thing. You end up talking to your friend Leah, and I think again, Sarah, kind of her persistent like uncertainty of herself. She says like, I really like Alex, and I feel like she likes me too. And Leah's like, well, she's coming over, right? And you're like, yeah. And she's like, well, duh. Yeah, she likes you. Come on, dude. That's sort of the reaction you get there with Leah. You end up going on Vinewire to download some music, which was funny. I like that reference. And you end up having to fight a virus because it's trying to destroy your computer, and so you have to go around and solve puzzles to not have your computer overrun with viruses. That was kind of fun. After this, you talk to Maddie, who's your sister, who tells you that Dad is depressed. And she doesn't live there anymore. I think she went away to college maybe. And she gives you kind of a hard time for not knowing what's going on with Dad. She's like, you didn't know he was depressed? I think he tried to hurt himself. How don't you know this? You should really not do anything and work really hard to basically not be hard on Dad so that Dad's not stressed out. This is what you should do. And is kind of, I think that she wants to mean well, but is kind of shitty about it. And I think this again leaves Sarah kind of confused, where it's like, I just thought Dad was working a lot, and like I didn't know, and you know, is it because of me, or you know, any of that sort of stuff. She sort of feels that way. Then you talk to Katya about your dad, And she kind of reassures you and also kind of goes the other way. And it's like, Maddie said, like, Sarah's like, oh, my sister told me I shouldn't be annoying. I should just take things out of his way and, like, be really easy, be as little of a problem as possible and not address anything. And Katya's like, I think you should ask him and tell him what you think and how you feel and ask him how he is and be direct. And you're kind of like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And Katya basically, like, affirms to you, like, you care, you want to be involved, you're not going to make this worse. I think that your dad probably feels alone and would feel really good if I think it would help him if you'd reach out. And so you're like, yeah, maybe you're right. Which again, here you get this Katya being the voice of reason. She's such a good friend all through this. I just really like these things you get from her. After this, too, you find out while you're talking with Katya that you got accepted to this video game internship. And you're really stoked about it. And are, just really, really glad about it. You made it. It happened. You did something you weren't sure if you believed in yourself, but the thing that you applied to believed in you. Pretty awesome. Fast forward a little more to July 2004. You send a letter to Katya about Alex being kind of clingy. That, you did start dating, it's cool, but then she's a little too much. She just is, needs things all the time and things like that. And so you're like, I don't, it's too much for me. And so you choose to be direct with Alex and you let her know about that. And Alex is actually pretty responsive. And it's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do too much. I'll pull back a little bit. Sorry about that. You end up talking to your dad about his depression, and he's actually responsive to you as well. He appreciates that you asked him about things, and you can feel progress being made. I think one thing that was going on with him is he just dove into work so much he burned himself out, kind of thing. And so you help kind of talk to him, and I think he feels, I think he's responsive to what you have to say, but I think he also is helped out by it. And then you have this part where Sarah, where you talk to yourself about your fears regarding the internship. Like, what if I'm not enough? What if, the people that work there are bad? Any of those kinds of things. And Sarah sort of self-talks herself through this. And that was good. Then you finally move on to the epilogue. And this is kind of cool because you get sort of a fast forward through a lot of life. So first one that comes up is May 2005. The internship goes really well. The game studio liked you. You had a great time. You pursue gaming. In 2006, you see some of your dad doing better. There's some photographs of him with friends, that he's built this support system, that things are going really well. Fast forward to 2009, you're still together with Alex after 5 years. Alex is also still in her band, trying to kind of make it big in music. So this is big, a relationship staying together all this time. Pretty cool. You fast forward to 2011, you get a nice birthday card from your sister Maddie. So you see that as both of you have gotten older, your relationship's been repaired. Maddie seems like a nice person based on this part. And so I think she's grown, and I think Sarah being able to probably forgive her and move towards her. That's going pretty well. You fast forward again to 2014. You get to be Leah's maid of honor, so you're in her wedding. It's pretty exciting. Long-term relationship there, being friends. Pretty cool. Fast forward again to 2016, and you're making your own video game. You're striking out. You're doing it on your own. So I think you'd worked in the industry for a while, but now I'm going out on my own. I'm making my own game. I'm doing it my way. pretty cool there. And then last one you get is 2018. And this is the 20-year anniversary of being pen pals with Katya. And you're actually going to Russia to go visit her and go and see her. And you're really excited about that. And that's the final epilogue. All right. So that's a recap of the game. So moving on to some general thoughts about the game. One thing is I liked getting to try a different style of game. I've never really played a word puzzle game, at least not this heavily. You know, like I did Wordle for a while, or I've tried out like crosswords or Sudoku or, you know, things like that, word search. Like I've done little things like that here and there, but they're not in a way like this where it's a game mechanic and it's only part of it, right? You know, like a crossword puzzle is only a crossword puzzle. Instead, with this game, right, words were part of it and you did do little puzzly things with them, but it wasn't the only thing. So that was pretty cool to get to play something different. And still being, you know, familiar to the kinds of games I play, right? You know, a lot of the games I play are these narrative-heavy games. And this still had that, but it had this kind of different piece to it. It also made me glad to have a Switch. Like, I don't know if this is a game that will end up on PlayStation ever or not. Like, it feels very much so like an indie PC game, but it's cool that the Switch often gets some of those. And so I'm glad I had my Switch to be able to play this. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think also in this game, the things that gave me Emily is Away vibes really worked for me. That's just obviously my thing. I'm just so into it. That is like what I want in games. Like, please give me those vibes. It's clear. I like those nostalgia trips down memory lane. I like the good things that come with them, the bad things, like all of that. It makes me want to find more games like it, or maybe play like the Emily Away series again. I think that is very much my jam and stuff I like. And I hope that more games do it, or I find more that are of that realm. I think just getting a narrative of people's lives and figuring things out, is totally my deal. Something I was hoping the game would offer, but maybe it's good it didn't. I don't know. Part of me wished that Katya and Sarah could try to date, even if it was just like later, like once they're in college or adults, like further on down the line. Part of me kind of wanted that. I felt like Katya was such a good friend. Like I liked her more than I liked Alex or Leah. She was such a great friend that part of me wanted to be like, yo, I should date you. Now, I think that the other side of that, the opposite, that's also true, is I'm also glad they didn't, because to see just like a good friendship that went through all of this time and she was always there as your friend, but there's not romance, is also cool and is a good story to tell. So, I think it's cool they did what they did and I'm glad they did, but there was part of me that was like, oh, you guys should date. It did feel that way a little bit. Also saying this right now is kind of funny. I know that maybe 2 years ago, earlier in the podcast for sure, a thing I would have said was, I don't like romance in games, not interested in shipping. I don't care about that. I don't want to play that way. And obviously I've very much so changed in that. Now I am interested. I don't know that I'm like an always shipper kind of thing, but I think I'm a lot more that way than I was when this podcast started. So that was kind of fun to see and recognize even in this again. I feel like there were times before where it was like, cool, there's a canon relationship. I like that. Or sure, you could maybe choose someone. And sometimes I did. But I feel like that's a Dan arc of the podcast that's probably evolved, of going from I don't want shipping at all to I like it and maybe want it a fair chunk of the time now. So I thought that was kind of fun to see. But I don't know. I think overall this is a pretty cool game. I'm glad this game exists. And I'm excited to see what the studio does next. I'm curious if they'll still do like word-based adventures, like word puzzle kind of thing again, or narrative stuff. Personally, I would love more of the Emily's Away type stuff, of course, but like, I liked the LimeWire knockoff and the MySpace knockoff and the IM stuff. I really liked that. I don't know how different the game is based on your choices that you choose. Like, I don't know if going to robotics instead of video games results in like a bad thing, like you weren't good at robotics and you get a bad ending, or if you just get robotics kind of in place of video games the rest of the way, or if you are friends with what's his face at the beginning instead of Leah, are you in his wedding someday, that kind of thing. So I don't exactly know how all that would change or not change. I'd be curious to see. My inclination is that it's probably more similar than different, which is fine. Like a Telltale game, they're more similar than different. I would imagine this follows a similar thought in that. But yeah, this is a cool game. I think too, even if you heard my recap right now, there are a lot of details I still didn't say. I think some of the things are really enjoyable to experience yourself. I thought that like fighting the virus, like that was a pretty fun, puzzly moment there, and figuring that out and how it looked on the screen was cool. So, yeah, I think that's all I've got on letters. If you've got any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear what you think about this game. Please write in. I'd love to chat about it. Also, pen pals. Let me hear about it. I'd love to dialogue on that and hear some experiences there. And yeah, I guess that is the episode. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do that on Twitter at StoryEverPod. Our website's TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com. That has all of our old episodes on there, including we've done all of the Emily is Away series. So if you want some of that nostalgia timeline stuff, that's totally there. We're also available wherever you get podcasts, so you can find us there as well. If you'd like to support the podcast financially, you can do that by going to patreon.com/TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed. There, for as little as $1 per month, that will give you access to monthly bonus episodes we do. So recently I talked about my favorite video game studios. I talked about my favorite Netflix originals. Talked about our favorite Pokemon, I think one of our first episodes. Things like that are on there. If those sound like things you might like, for as little as $1 per month, you could go check that out. If you'd like to support the podcast but can't financially, that's totally cool. I think doing something like rating and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts, that would go far. Telling a friend, really anything to just get this shared with more people. I think that's something that's pretty special about this show, is just getting to share games with people and getting to enjoy things together. So if you'd like to help cause that to happen, I'd super appreciate it. And yeah, I guess that is the episode, and we will see you next time.